All right. Welcome to Naked Faith, where we take off the mask, drop the performances, and get honest about what it really means to follow Jesus. I'm Ron, and these are my amazing co-hosts, Grace and Michelle. And together, we're going to create a space for real conversations, real stories, and real encounters with a love that never gives up. No agenda, no religious hype. Just real people sharing how God met them in the messy middle and pointing to one truth. Jesus still transforms lives. So whether you're walking strong or hanging on by a thread, you are welcome here. This is Naked Faith. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
All right. So we, as a group, have decided that we're going to, we're keeping the same theme of our women in the Bible, but we are going to fast forward a little bit because we will come back to some of the Old Testament women that we passed over, but we want to get into Mary Magdalene. And so, so I'm going to set the stage here a little bit, and I think we're going to have a discussion. So there is a Gospel of Mary that is part of the Gnostic Gospels. And I'm going to ask you guys, do you know what that Gnostic Gospels is?
I do not.
Like Gospels that aren't included in what we know is the Bible. Basically, I feel like is the general consensus for that, you know?
Yeah, so here's where it's a little controversial, I guess is the right word to say. So there's a stigma that comes with Gnosticism. And the stigma is that the Gnostics were like mystics or soothsayers or seers, wizards, not they didn't follow the Christian norm. Is that a better way to put it? And it really gets conflated because the word Gnostic or however, I don't remember what the Greek word is, but the word Gnostic means knowledge. And so the Gnostic Gospels are like these knowledge books that, for whatever reason, were not deemed canonical. Canonical, is that the right word? I don't know what canonical. What? Yeah, is that the right word?
Okay.
And so, now, the history of these Gospels were found in a jar in a desert town called Nag Hammadi. And these are called the Nag Hammadi Library, named after the town that they were found in. And so there's some questions about where did these Gospels come from, who actually wrote them, were they really written by the people that they're named after? So did Mary Magdalene really write this Gospel, or was it written several hundred years later by someone that wasn't Mary Magdalene? So there is some controversy with these Gospels. And again, we started this podcast thinking we didn't care, and we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. We're going to talk about it. But I just want to kind of set the stage of why there's controversy. So did you guys ever see the movie The Da Vinci Code?
I actually haven't.
You haven't?
No.
Okay.
I know.
Michelle, you have?
Don't look at me.
It's been a long time, but yeah, I have seen it.
Okay, so the Da Vinci Code was based on the Gnostic Gospels. And the premise of the movie was that when Da Vinci painted the Last Supper painting, the world famous Last Supper painting, there was a hidden message in there that led to the Gnostic Gospels. And in that painting, it depicted that Mary Magdalene was the wife of Jesus. So this is the part that really gets people on angst when you say that Jesus was married and the Da Vinci Code went into the whole idea that they had a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is also controversial. I'm not sure why it would be controversial, because I guess in the mind that, if Jesus is God in human form, would he really had a child when we're all God's children, right?
Right.
So as I've been, we talked about this briefly in our very first episode of things we wanted to talk about, and I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about it because I never really put that much thought into the Gnostic Gospels. But as I've been on my journey over the last probably 5 or 6 years, I've really gotten distrusted with the church. And I say the church because I don't know that I necessarily trust the church either. And that's kind of what the whole idea behind this, when I had the idea for this podcast, that was kind of one of the ideas, was thinking like there's all this stuff out there that you don't ever get told in church, and that you're not going to get just by going to your Sunday service and listening to a pastor preach, because they are political and they play let me rephrase that. I don't want to say that pastors are political. Pastors, at least all of my friends who are pastors, are not political, but they have to play a political game because their congregation requires that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've been listening to this book on tape about Mary Magdalene, and I'm not sure where I fall on this.
Like, do you feel like your views are kind of clashing in a way? Or just the more that, like, what... I guess if you don't know how you feel about it, then you might not be able to, like, explain it. Yeah, because I can understand that, the more we learn, then it's like, the more, I don't know, the more that we already know kind of shatters in a way. Because, I mean, growing up in the church, I, only just started learning about the Gnostic Gospels as well, maybe earlier in the last 6 months. And so I just feel like a lot of people who follow Christianity have been told a lot, by the Bible and by the church. And for so many centuries, like, anyone who says anything else otherwise, is, I don't know, hanged for heresy or treason or something like that, and that's not really a thing nowadays, so it's interesting to explore and learn more and see what else might be going on or might have gone on in the past. Because you said that the Gnostic Gospels, people aren't sure if they're accurate, like if it's truly coming from Mary Magdalene herself, if that's what she said, or if people just wrote it years later. And I would argue that some people feel that way about the Bible itself, Yeah. Like, I think it goes both ways. But yeah, that's funny that my phone fell as I said it goes both ways. But yeah, no, it's definitely interesting to just, like, maybe be more open-minded in general and just, like, see what else is possible,
And I think it opens up, I guess, like, a whole side, like, maybe you shouldn't always listen to what everybody tells you. You need to go out and discover this yourself, Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, and I think that's been my conflict. And I think, Grace, you kind of nailed it. Well, you both kind of nailed it, right? I mean, and I just did that thing we talked about earlier. People have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, okay. They have no idea.
It's fine. It's good. It's all good.
We're working on our skills.
Working on our talking skills,
Communication.
our
Yeah.
language skills. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think that's where I get conflicted because, you know, man, my first exposure to Christianity was when I was 16 years old in a Southern Baptist church. And if you don't know anything about Southern Baptists, they're very strict. They very much believe what the written Bible says. At least this was my experience. I was 16 in the 80s. And I remember sitting in church. It was a buddy of my friend had asked me to go to church. We were living in Daytona Beach, and him and I used to ride our bicycles everywhere. And I think it might have been 15. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the church that they went to was just right down the road from our houses. And so we would ride over there. And I remember sitting in church after the first couple of Sundays of going and thinking, hey, there's something here. I really like this. Like, it seemed like something missing in my life that I was seeking. And I started to get fascinated with it. But what I remember is there was like one particular sermon that, the pastor's up there and he's going, doing his thing. And Southern Baptist preachers you've seen the videos, they're the ones that yell and they, the hellfire and brimstone and, God's going to strike you down in your pew because, that sort of stuff. And, I remember he said something, and as I was reading the Bible, I was like, man, that doesn't seem the way I didn't get that out of what he was preaching was not what I got out of reading it. And so, being a baby, new, wet-nosed, punk 15-year-old Christian who didn't know any better, I walked up to the pastor and said, hey, I don't think that that's what that said. Or I didn't get that, like what you were preaching. You would think I had just, slapped his children in front of him. Like, it was crazy.
He committed a crime.
Yeah. I mean, he just looked at me stone-faced. And there was an older gentleman in the church who was a really nice guy. He lived across the street from the church. And he was probably 80-something years old, and his wife had passed away. And my buddy and I used to go over on Saturdays and do odd jobs. He had this house he had probably 3 or 4 acres of land, and his children did not live in Florida. So, and he was getting up in age, and, he couldn't do half the stuff around his house that he normally could. So it was like, cutting the grass or, trimming trees, that sort of stuff. And so my buddy and I, for fun, would go over and, spend the day at his house, just doing stuff. I mean, he was just really cool. He was like a mentor, kind of like that grandfatherly figure. Mm-hmm. And so I think his name was Mr. Solanas. I don't know why I remember this, but so I remember saying this, and Mr. Solanas, actually we'd go over after church too. And he grabbed me and he pulled me away and he said, we'll talk about this later over lunch. I mean, I highly respected the guy, so I was like, okay, great. So me and my best friend Andrew are like, okay, so we did a couple things around the church, and then we got on our bicycles and we rode over to Mr. Solana's house, and we, he had lunch prepared, and we got there, and that's where I was instructed. You don't question the pastor. Mm-mm. I mean, he did it in a very nice way. He wasn't mean about it.
Yeah. Right.
But it was pretty clear. You don't question the pastor.
Yeah. I can understand that that's definitely a way that a lot of churches do things. I think it's unfortunate that they do it that way, because then there's no like room for exploration, or even just like diving deeper into your own faith, spirituality, just like your like, what am I trying to say? Deepening into your own understanding of religion and spirituality and the Bible itself. Like, if you're not able to go to your pastor about questioning your own experience with faith and spirituality, then like, how are they supposed to be that spiritual mentor for you? I feel like that's what pastors also are spiritual mentor. And so I feel like you should be able to go to them whenever you do have questions. So I just find it unfortunate that a lot of churches don't necessarily operate that way or allow that in a way, you know?
Yeah, I get that. I mean, not all of the pastors. I have several friends who are pastors, several
Right.
close friends who are pastors, and they're not like that at all. And I mean, this is not, my story is not meant to be a bash on the Southern Baptists.
Yeah.
It's just that my experience in Southern Baptist church and other people that I've known who are Southern Baptists, this is the mentality, is that it clearly states this in the Bible, and therefore this is how it is.
Mm.
So, I grew up thinking, okay, well, it's word for word. If the Bible says, beat your neighbor, then I'm supposed to go beat my neighbor. Now, not that the Bible says that, it doesn't say that, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, that's,
Yeah.
Don't beat your neighbor.
Don't beat
Yeah.
your neighbor. Oh yeah, Christ says that.
That's
more
like the
than,
literal opposite of the.
I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying, right?
I know,
So
I know,
like,
I know.
so my very first formula years, from time probably 16 to maybe even 1920, like I did not question. And so it wasn't until I was, in the Navy and I was going to sea, on a submarine. You got a lot of time to think about things
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and make up things because, you're like cut off from the world. So we used to joke like World War III could be happening right now and we would never know. I mean, it's, it's like that bad, right? And so like you have all this time to like think about things. And so as there were a couple of guys I served with who were, Christians, and we could have these discussions. And so that's what started really kind of opening my mind to like, oh, maybe this is not the way everything I've ever thought. Again, I'm only 4 to 5 years into my Christian journey, and like, oh, maybe this is not how it's supposed to be. And of course I had the rebel years, where I was a Christian, but I didn't live a Christian life. That's for sure. Anyway, I mean, that's kind of diversion, but so it's a long answer to your question. Why am I a little uncomfortable? It's because I don't know enough about them, one, and I'm definitely wanting to expand my horizons. So that's not it. And I definitely want to like learn what else is out there. But
Yeah.
part of me is I still can't shake this. Is it real or is it not real?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's hard when we're so removed from that time in history, I feel like just trying to read more of the Bible in general and some of the Gnostic Gospels, it's like, well, yeah, I'm reading it, but how true is it in general? It's like that we're so far beyond when it actually happened. It's like, I feel like it gets not tainted over time, but like washed over time in some way, when things get recycled over and over again or repeated over and over again, and it's like, okay, what was the true original material though? Or like the authentic word or teachings, and I just try and think about what Jesus was trying to teach everyone that I think we as a society have forgotten over time of like I believe Jesus was trying to teach everyone that we have the power within ourselves and we're capable of connecting with God ourselves, not necessarily needing to look to anyone or anything else, for answers in a way. I feel like we have our own divine connection within us. And I want to say that's part of Mary Magdalene's Gospels as well, but I also need to like brush up on that and keep studying that and for me as well. I just think there's so much we don't know about their relationship because they were partners, I believe, and like I would consider Mary Magdalene to be another apostle or a disciple with Jesus, if not the closest one with Jesus, because they there's probably so much that he shared with her that none of the other disciples really know because they were partners.
Yeah.
You know?
And to kind of go off that, the way, I mean, there's so many different religions, and so how do we know who's right? Like,
Right.
so, because everybody says something different, every religion does something a little bit different. So, how are we supposed to know as humans what's right and what? So, we should ask these questions. We should look into deeper into these stories that aren't told in the Bible that maybe, correlate to the Bible. So,
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
important to question just to like I think just the act of questioning is simply a sign that we want to understand more and we want to explore more and we're not just doing what we're told.
Yeah, I get that. All right, I want to ask a question then, because you just said something, Michelle, that when you say other religions, you mean like other, like Judaism, Christianity,
I'm saying like
or
everything. I mean,
within Christianity?
there's different, I guess, legs of like the Christian religion. I mean, you have, like you said, the Southern Baptist. You have, I don't know,
Yeah.
Pentecostal.
You're right.
And they all learn or know something different or do something a little bit different. So how are we supposed to know which religion is right, which one is actually preaching what God intended the Bible to be, and ask the questions beyond the Bible, like what stories were left out or like that correlate to the Bible. So
Yeah, I get that. And I don't think my dilemma is, like, I totally get what you guys are saying, and I 100% agree with everything you said. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast was, again, let's talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about and seek out, different viewpoints. And, another interesting thing is there's a lot of, when you listen to like your pastor in the church, that, or even if you read like these biblical scholars, and they'll reference material that's not in the Bible that they use to help interpret what they're reading in the Bible. So there is a bunch of literature. There's a bunch of literature. They call this the Second Temple. There's Second Temple literature that supports the New Testament and Second Temple literature that supports some of the stories in the Old Testament, but they're not in the Bible.
right.
And so, if you reading the Bible itself, there's different literary styles in the Bible. Some are poetic, some are stories, some are allegories. Not everything written in the Bible actually happened. It was a story told to.
Yeah.
It was a story that was told to show you a dimension of God. And I know, like, the Bible doesn't tell you oh, this is just a story, or no, this historically really actually happened. And so, yeah, I mean, the only way you know that is by doing additional research, like what we're doing here, like asking these questions.
Right. It's
So
kind of like
here's
yeah.
a crazy question.
Mhm.
Who decided what stories went into the Bible? Or like who
Okay,
decided
so
what the end game of the Holy Bible? Like whose decision was that?
okay, well, all right. I was gonna go there because it's funny you say that. Great segue, because I was like, I recently had an encounter with someone about this very topic, and uh, it's funny because I was questioning their. They said, "Oh, well, the Bible tells us this, this, and this," and I came back with like, "But yeah, but who wrote the Bible? I mean, where are no, not who wrote the Bible? Who decided what went in the Bible?"
Yeah.
And
right.
it was a group of men. It was a
Mm-hmm.
group of men. There was a couple of councils. One, the Nicene Council. There was a different one, and I don't know all the historical councils, but there were a couple of councils. And a lot of this was driven by the Roman Church. The Romans.
Yeah.
So Constantine was the first Roman emperor that established Christianity as the religion, and then he also bestowed a portion of land of Rome for the church to be established. Tell me if you've heard this story.
Mm-hmm.
And they are a sovereign nation. They're not part of Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's commonly referred to as the Vatican in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, so like when we talk about stories of Mary Magdalene, there were no women present on these councils when they decided whenever they decided the yardstick of, okay, I found this text and it was supposedly written by Peter, Paul, Timothy, Philip, Mary Magdalene, whoever. They established a set of criteria that they used to gauge whether that was canonical or not. So I get what you're saying, Michelle. I totally understand that because I've asked myself that same very question many times.
Yeah.
Well, how did they get to decide? I mean,
Because
and
they
for
were the men in power. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Women. Yeah.
go
I
ahead.
mean, women have. I don't know. Like women have had to pass down traditions just through their own storytelling. Like anytime anything is written by a woman, at least especially back then, like anytime anything was written by a woman, it was pretty much immediately erased in some way. Like even what we have of Mary Magdalene's Gospels are only fragments and only like a couple bits of chapters here and there. Like we don't even have the full thing because so much of it was erased. And then it's kind of random, but I just think about like the Library of Alexandria that was what burned centuries ago, and we have no idea what was in that and how much of history might have gotten erased through that. But that's its own thing because we don't even know what was in that necessarily. But anyways, that's yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah.
Well, go ahead, Michelle.
I was just thinking it's important to ask those questions because I don't think we'll really ever know the answer until we go to heaven, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
Well, okay, so even like the story of Mary Magdalene. So since we're diving into the deep end,
oh, watch out.
the story of Mary Magdalene herself. How did this get? Okay, before I say what I'm about to say, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
And now, Grace, you may be able to answer this differently because you've done a little
Mm.
study on this, but
Mm.
I need you to put yourself back 2 or 3 years ago before you got fascinated with this.
Okay.
And
I'll try.
think about before you read anything about the Gospel of Mary Magdalene,
Mm-hmm.
what have you always been told about Mary Magdalene's past?
Well, it's funny you ask that because I did a production of Jesus Christ Superstar 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and through that process, I even learned more about it. Because then I'm not sure if I knew because I'm not sure if I knew that she was considered to be like a prostitute in biblical times. Like that's what a lot of people construed her as, like before meeting Jesus. I don't know how much of that is actually true. I don't know if any of us actually know how much of that is true, but
Yeah, but stop right there. So
okay.
you were told that she was a prostitute.
Mhm.
Okay. Michelle, what about you?
I have known nothing about. I mean, I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about her. Like
Okay.
I never heard anything of what she's done. I know that she had some correlation with Jesus, but that's about the extent of my knowledge of Mary Magdalene at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Grace is actually correct. This is the story that the church has told for hundreds of years, is that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute and that she was demon possessed. And Jesus, the reason why she clung to Jesus was because he got rid of her demons, which was what's causing her to be a prostitute.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Like I know.
No, hold on, just stop right there. That's the story that has been
Yes.
told.
Yeah.
Now, where did that story come from?
Men.
Well, true, but I mean, in particular, uh, it was in 591 AD, Pope Gregory the First said in a sermon that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute.
Right.
And that is the story that has stuck for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until recently that the church, the Roman Catholic Church, has come out and said, oh, yeah, we think Pope Gregory the First might have had it wrong.
Right. Because he was, even when he said that, was still hundreds of years after uh, everyone that lived in that time.
Yeah.
And
That's fascinating.
yeah. And
So
yeah.
the next question you have to ask is, why would Pope Gregory of the Roman Catholic Church, again, none of us were alive in 591 AD, and we weren't
Yeah.
sitting in the pews of wherever that was at, but
Right.
why would Pope Gregory the First, the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, deliver a sermon claiming that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute when nobody thought that beforehand?
Yeah. That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Like,
who
yeah.
is Mary Magdalene? That's
Right. It makes you wonder, like, if he, because I don't know much about that, but hearing you say that, it makes me wonder, like, did he find something out about the Gnostic gospel, like her Gnostic gospels, and didn't, I don't know, didn't want that knowledge to get around, be widespread. So then he delivered this sermon as a way to cover it up and show her in a bad light. You know?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I googled this while we were sitting here talking,
Okay.
and here's what it says: Pope Gregory the First sermon, in his Easter sermon, Gregory identified Mary Magdalene with both the unnamed sinner and Mary of Bethany, which was the first explicit association of her with sexual sin. So here's the
Okay.
problem with that, though. Back then, surnames were how you got your surname was different than the way we do it today. Like your surname is carried on with you through generations.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't necessarily so back then. So Mary Magdalene came from the region of Magdala, and that's
Right.
where her name came from, Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
But in this sermon, he said Mary of Bethany. Now I don't know where Bethany or Magdala were in relation to each other, but it's not the same Mary, apparently.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, because in a lot of other contexts, Mary Magdalene is also named Miriam of Magdala. That's like another name that she goes by in a lot of communities.
So or based on that, so we're saying that the Mary the Pope was talking about is not the same Mary as Mary Magdalene. Is that right?
Yes.
Like it's a completely different Mary.
It's a different Mary.
Okay.
So there are several Marys mentioned in the Bible.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I mean, in the story of Jesus, the first one, which is obvious, is Mary,
Yeah,
the
Virgin
mother
Mary.
of Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? Well, even that's controversial.
No.
See, that's a story perpetuated by the Catholic Church. That she never had, her and Joseph never had any children, and they never actually had sex. That Mary, the mother of Jesus, was always a virgin, which is why they call her the Virgin Mother.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that Jesus had a brother named James.
Yeah.
He has a gospel in the Bible. So where did James come from?
Where did he come from?
Yeah. And they say, the storyline of the Catholic Church is, oh, well, that was Joseph's child from another relationship. But the stories leading up to Mary, the mother of Jesus, does not mention Joseph having children. I mean, all we know about Joseph is that he was older. He was older than Mary. And then, when she was the Immaculate Conception, it came to him in a dream. God spoke to him in a dream that said, this is my child, and you need to raise this child, right? Like it's the child in your future bride is conceived of the Holy Spirit, and he has a purpose, and you need to be his earthly father. I'm conflating the story just to get, but that's
Yeah. You got the gist. Yeah.
You get it, right?
Yeah, I get it.
So that's the first Mary. Then there's the Mary of Bethany, who was a prostitute, who was saved by Jesus. Then there's Mary Magdalene. And then there's also, and then this is kind of interesting, there's also Lazarus had two sisters, one of which was named Mary. So I mean, there's a few.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, oh, which Mary was who? Like, oh, play the game. Which Mary is this? Right?
Yeah.
Now, from the biblical side, in the part that we call canonical, what do we know about Mary? I mean, there's a couple interesting things about Mary that are interesting to point out.
I think one of the biggest things is that she was the first one that knew of Jesus' resurrection. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, she was the first one that Jesus came to or went to after he resurrected.
Well, she's the first one to find him.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first one that he revealed himself to after the resurrection.
Yeah.
She was also one of the first followers.
Mm.
I mean, she started following him as soon as his ministry began. So there's a lot of firsts that Mary was there for. And again, the story I was always told was that, Jesus saved her. She was a sinner. She was a prostitute, demon possessed, and he, drove out the demons, and that changed her life. And so she dedicated her life to following him. But clearly know that that's not true. That's not the story. So how did Mary come to know Jesus? I don't know. Because if, it doesn't really say that. We know that her name is mentioned throughout multiple times of Jesus's ministry and the speakings and the stuff that Jesus accomplished while he was here. But she's not talked about a lot in the Bible, other than we know she was present. We know she traveled with him. We know that she was with him from the very beginning to the very end. And as you said, Grace, she was the one that he revealed himself to first.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the cool thing about that. What's interesting is that Peter would actually, all the gospel authors would actually not only write that, but admit to it, that Mary Magdalene and the mother of Jesus, were the first people that he revealed himself to after the resurrection. Because if you remember,
Mm-hmm.
how were women viewed at the turn of the century, at the turn of the whatever you call that?
They were like second. I mean, they were like second-rate citizens. I mean, they weren't.
I don't even think they were second-rate citizens. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think the sheep had more honor than women.
Yeah. So in the Bible, I think that's that right there. After Jesus' death and his resurrection, that was a huge, like, I guess, point there that a woman was the one who saw Jesus and not a man.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But
not just any woman, the woman.
Yeah. And see,
Yeah.
I've
What
always
we're talking
understood the story that it was Mary, his mom, like the mother,
Mm.
I never heard the Mary Magdalene side of it. So that's quite interesting. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you
interested
never
to.
knew that Mary Magdalene was there?
Mm-mm.
No, Mary Magdalene was the first one.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's, like I said, that's very interesting. I'm interested
Mm-hmm.
to read about this.
Well, okay, so the lead up to this story is that, Jesus died. He was
Mm-hmm.
crucified and he died, and they put his body in the tomb and they
Yeah.
sealed it with a rock. Well, the Jewish customs of the day was after the third day, they would go and prepare. I might have this all messed up, but the Marys were on their way to prepare his body,
Mm-hmm.
like wrap it in the shroud, put oil on him, because then they go in a tomb and that's where they stay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Romans, Caiaphas, who was the Jewish leader of Jerusalem at the time, had convinced Pontius Pilate to put guards on the tomb because
Yeah.
he believed that the disciples were going to steal the body in the night and then claim that Jesus resurrected.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So the tomb was guarded, and they got permission to go prepare the body as per their death rituals. And when they got there, the tomb was open. The guards were sound asleep, and he was gone. His body was no longer there. They were flabbergasted because where did his body go? And on their way back to tell the other disciples, the other apostles, that his body was missing is when he shapeshifted and was not who they did not recognize him. It was a person that they encountered on the road, and they did not recognize him until Jesus said her name.
Mm-hmm.
He called her out, Mary, it is I, or so, I don't know the exact phrase, but
Right. I think he was like a gardener or something.
yeah,
I
something like
believe.
that.
Yeah.
So I just looked up Matthew. So the resurrection's in Matthew 28. And I find this kind of interesting. So it's in Matthew 28:1. It says, after the Sabbath at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. So I find it kind of interesting that Mary Magdalene is named, but then Mary is just the other Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it's questionable because remember, there's 45 Marys in the story. You know, it's like who's
Like,
Mary in the
who's
zoo,
who?
right?
And then like further down in the scripture, they just say the women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the women.
Yeah.
What a way to refer to them, right?
Yeah. So I find that's interesting.
Yeah, those women over there found him.
Yeah.
Now, Ron, in the book that you're reading or listening to right now, has she like explicitly shared the scripture or just like talked about the contents of it? Do you know yet?
Huh. I don't remember. So here's what I know about this author. She was a theologian. She went to a Bible college.
And her name's Megan Watterson, if we didn't say it before.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Megan Watterson. She went to a Bible college. She went there. I don't know that she was necessarily going to be a pastor or a Bible scholar. I have to go back and read her story of why she was there. She tells this in the book, like why she went there. But she went there on a mission to, because she's like us. She's like, everything I've been told, I don't think is accurate. And so she was seeking out more information. Now, she is a Christian. She believes in Jesus. She believes in God.
Mm-hmm.
But she also has written this whole book on the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And it's just fascinating to me, like, because she's all into the after, what happened after.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the gospel that was found, this gospel of Mary that was found, and it's written, and I guess the controversy that comes up is if you look at the other gospels or the letters of Peter and Paul that make up the New Testament, the way they're written is I'm trying to think of how to say this. They're more like they're telling you the story and the history and the things that Jesus shared. But Mary's gospel is on a different level than what the gospels in the Bible are.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where you get to the illusion of there was some sort of relationship there that wasn't present with the 12 apostles.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Because I've read.
Go ahead.
What? I was just gonna say I've read, some of the fragments that we have access to. I'd love to, on a later episode, just like recite them, for anyone listening, if people are interested. And I don't know. I believe that maybe Jesus kind of prepared Mary for his death in a way of like like spiritually maybe, helping her to understand like what's going on, why it's happening, um, in a way that she could be there for him as he was dying. Like, I think I don't know. I mean, I don't know how true it is, like how accurate it is, but I'm pretty sure she was there till the very end. Like, she was one of the last people like there at the cross while he was dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Just like
Well, I think that's in the Bible too, right?
probably, yeah.
That the Marys
The Marys.
were the last ones, were there until he died,
Mhm.
and they were the ones that watched his body be put in the tomb.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the other. I mean, does it really mention the other apostles being there? I'd have to go back and read the. Okay,
Mhm.
so John 19:25 says, "Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene."
Mhm.
Now, here's interesting. When Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciples standing by whom he loved, he said to unto his mother, "Woman, behold thy son." Oh, okay, because that's John.
Okay.
So Mary was one of the women that was there when he died, that stayed there.
Okay, so Matthew 27, verse 55 says, "Many women were there, watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons, whoever.
Mhm.
So as the evening approached, there came a rich man," and then they talk about how Joseph took Jesus' body and wrapped it with linen and put him in the tomb and stuff. And then it says Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, again, were sitting there opposite of the tomb.
So we know she was there.
Yeah.
Right.
And she was the
Yeah.
first one that he revealed himself to.
Mhm.
So two angels approached her and asked her why she was crying. And she did think he was the gardener. She thought he was the gardener until he said her name.
Mhm.
Which is really kind of interesting, right? Because, I mean, he apparently had a dialogue with her for a short period of time that made her think it was a gardener. And then he said her name, and that's the moment that she recognized him.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then beyond that, I find this kind of interesting. Um, Mary Magdalene was the one who went to the disciples to tell them that Jesus had risen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That just reminds me of like one of her gospels later on, I guess, that I love to get into in a later episode of like she's because I feel like most of her gospels she was relaying to the other disciples, and there's a specific one where it might be Peter starts to like doubt her or what she's saying because she said something a lot, or I don't know if she said it or then like Paul or Simon came in and was like, do you not think Jesus talked to her directly, like, about these things?
Right.
Why would she be lying to us if she was like the closest person to Jesus? So it just I don't know, I like that connection that she was the first one to relay that Jesus had resurrected, and then like later on she shares more with them about what he shared only with her. There were things that he shared only with her, and then in her gospels she's able to then share that with the other disciples. And of course they start doubting her, and then but then they actually listen, and it's a whole thing. So it's definitely interesting. And I would love to get more into that in another episode.
Well, we're
It
going
kind
to.
of goes back to like what we had talked about in a previous episode, like how important women really were in the Bible that maybe we take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. And I think that, it's significant that it was Mary. Well, it's significant in two things, right? Significant that it was Mary Magdalene that he first revealed himself to after the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I go back to this statement, she did not recognize him until he said her name. He called her Mary. And so I don't know. That's just like, it's, I never thought about this until you ruined my life, Grace.
It's all Grace.
You're welcome.
I'm just kidding.
I'm super fascinated by this now.
It just got me fascinated because I was like, oh my gosh, there's these things that you go, oh. And, reading or listening to this other book and then going back and reading this and you're thinking, wow, this is just, it's bizarre. It's stuff I never noticed before. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of like, okay, well, why did I not? Well, I know why, because we never put significance on it. Yeah. The traditional church doesn't put significance on this.
Right.
But it's apparently significant.
Yeah.
As we're going to find out as we talk more about this.
Yeah.
That this is apparently significant. And the significance of that is just going to be crazy. So
this is only the beginning.
Yeah. And this is only the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And so I think in our next episode, we'll talk about what happened to Mary.
Right.
And
we can get into more of the specific scripture if we want to share the Gnostic Gospels a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I think we should share
curious about this now.
What's that?
I said I'm really curious about this now.
Yeah. I mean, you can look it up for yourself as well and try and read it.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to be in a black hole all this week.
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to order this book that we talked about because, I want to know more, Yeah. And I need to read it. I need to have it in print so I can,
highlight.
Yeah.
highlight things.
I love audiobooks, but I think it gets to a point where you can kind of passively listen to it, when you're doing something else. So you're not necessarily hearing what they're saying. That's my personal experience, but I do love audiobooks.
Yeah, I'm with you, Grace. I'm the same way. I like listening to them, but I need to have the ones that I'm like, oh, this is a keeper. I want to have the actual book so I can go back and reference it, or just look up passages and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, I love libraries. I love that they're an amazing free resource that we have. But I'm I love marking up my books and writing in my books.
Yeah, me too.
I really do.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
So.
All right. Well,
nice.
Okay. So we're going to kind of close this out here.
Yeah.
Fascinating discussion. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited where the next several episodes may take us. But
we'll see.
Things to ponder. I was just thinking of a question that I wanted to leave you guys. Here's what it is. Okay, so here's the controversial part of it. When you go back to the Da Vinci Code, you go back to this Gospel of Mary that was written. There's a lot of controversy in the allegation of the Da Vinci Code and the Gospel of Mary. Mm-hmm. And the allegation is that, as we stated earlier, that Mary Magdalene and Jesus had a more intimate relationship than what is painted in the Gospels.
Mm-hmm.
And that relationship is depicted as if they were husband and wife.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question that I ponder, and maybe, Michelle, this could be the question of the week.
Yeah.
And maybe this would be it would be really cool if we actually could do street, random people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If this were true, how would that change your perception? But here's my question. If it were true, if this is true, if Jesus and Mary were a husband and wife, which meant they would have had an intimate relationship. And when I say intimate, we know what that means,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that change anything? Does that alter your perception of Jesus or alter your view of Jesus's teaching? Would it matter?
Mm.
That's a good one.
That is a good question.
So make sure you check us out on Facebook and Instagram and all the socials and let us know what you think.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. Thank you all for joining and listening, and we're excited to see where this goes. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. We will see you all later.
See you next week. Yeah.